Welcome to Garden Wise Adventures. My name is Millie and today we are finally planting tomatoes. Yesterday I did a video of the harvest that I had to do to make room for the tomatoes and peppers. We're also planting peppers. And got everything set up, the beds amended, and the support system set up for my tomatoes. So let's show you what we're going to plant and where we're going to plant them. Now actually what I think we're going to do is we're going to show you what I'm going to plant at the end after they're all planted. So we're going to have 7 tomatoes in this bed, in the front of the bed. And we're going to do a single staking system. I've done that for the last couple of years and I've really liked how it works. What we do is we plant the tomatoes, we pull off all of the side shoots and just end up with one vine going up each pole. Now we can extend each pole if needed. For some reason I've never gotten my tomatoes tall enough to be able to need to add any extra. But we have an irrigation pipe fitting up at the top where we can make it taller if needed. Now these are put over the top of rebar that I've pounded into the ground. I'll show you that. So if you just pull it up, there's rebar under there. So they're pretty steady. This staking system has worked out really well. As long as I'm sure to pound it into the ground far enough, this staking system works just fine. We have all of our tomatoes ready. We prepared the beds and put fertilizer in them already. So all that I'm going to do is add water to each hole before I plant each tomato and then water them in again afterwards. And I'm hoping to reduce the amount of time that I water them this year by waiting until they look like they're going to wilt before I water them in again. And we're also going to mulch these beds with straw and leaves that I've chopped up. So hopefully we can get these tomatoes to produce really well. Every year I've never had a real problem with tomatoes, so I'm excited for this year. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is plant peppers in the back. These are peppers that I started from seed in early March, which was way too early. They've been producing fruit inside already. They are healthy plants, so I don't know exactly how they're going to handle being outside. They're hardened off. And we don't have any more cold weather in the forecast. So I'm hoping they'll continue producing fruit. But all of these are my sweet bells. There's different varieties that we'll go over after I'm done planting. Over here are my paprika peppers. And then we've got some more tomatoes growing up the back. Now it'll be interesting to see how well these tomatoes do. This area generally does not get sun till about 1 p.m. and then it's full bright sun from that point onwards. And we'll see how the tomatoes do in this bed. Then back in my new vegega bed, so we're going to have squash in the front. You could see one starting here. I planted seeds a few days ago. And these are for the naked bear squash. There's going to be one here, and then one over here on this corner. The naked bear squash are for pepitas or squash seeds. And I really use a lot of those now with my new diet and I really love them. So we were going to try growing those on our own and see how much we can produce. We're just going to let those kind of spill out into this bed and over the grass if needed. And then in the back, we're going to have 7 more tomatoes. Now this area is really hot. It's full sun and they should do well. They're already actually starting to wilt a little bit. But I figure once we get them planted and watered in really well, they should do well. The last tomato I'm going to plant, so we have 18 tomatoes that we're planting, and the last one that I'm planting is up here in this bed. This is going to be a sunsugar cherry tomato. And the reason I put it out here on this corner is this is where I've had the sunsugar cherry tomatoes ever since I've had a garden. And my middle daughter loves these tomatoes. And it just brings back memories of her coming out here and raiding my tomato plants. So it always stays here on this corner. Now I'm not worried about diseases spreading from planting it in the same spot. The soil in this bed gets amended and changed out regularly. So it always does well here. But this last year I did not stake it well enough and it fell over into the path and it got left all season. But this year I made sure the stake was driven down into the ground well enough. Also going to use the single staking system. We're also going to put my 3 jalapeno peppers in this bed. I've cleared out a couple of spots. And this is the bed we harvested out of yesterday. We had some chiji-misai that I didn't show you the harvest of because all of them had flowered. But we'd had some kohlrabi in the back and some lettuce in the front. So these are all my banana peppers. I pickle my banana peppers regularly, and these have been producing, and I've been harvesting off them for several weeks now. So I'm hoping that they'll continue to thrive and do well in this bed. So what I'd like to do first is show you how I plant my tomatoes. I'll plant one tomato and one pepper, spare you the boredom of showing you all of them being planted. And then we'll show you how we tie them up to the supports. We're actually going to do a Florida weave support system on the peppers in this bed and the bed over on the other side. And I'll show you how I'm going to do that. So let's show you how I plant my tomatoes first. I know there's a lot of tomato planting videos out there, and we all do it basically the same, but it's always good to review, and especially for people who have not really planted tomatoes before. So let's show you how I do it. Now right here we have a pineapple tomato. This is a tomato I've been wanting to grow, a variety I've been wanting to grow for a long time. I finally was able to get a hold of some seeds from Jane with Gardening Fun with Jane, and it's a very healthy start. Look how thick that stalk is. It's a little tall, it's probably a little root bound because it's been waiting for the cold weather to pass for so long. I started these the second week in April, and it's now the first week in June. So they've been in these pots for quite a while. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to find all of these little leaves at the bottom, and we're going to pull those off, including this one. And we're going to bury this as deep as we can because this stalk will grow roots all the way up. So the fact that it's root bound down here is not going to matter because it's going to grow roots up to the top. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look for any little sprouts. So there's this sprout right there. We're going to pull it off. And I think that's it. This is all one stalk. We're going to tie this stalk to the support, and then we're just going to leave it and let it grow up as a one stalk plant. We're not going to let, actually here's a side shoot right here. I'll show you this. This is a side shoot right here. I don't know how well you can see that. We don't want those side shoots because we just want one stalk. So we pulled that off. Now it's ready to plant. Then we're going to squeeze the pot, gently pull it out, and the root system isn't that bad. So here's the root system. We're going to just mess it up just a little bit. And then we're going to dig a deep hole. And I watered these beds yesterday, so they are quite wet, which is good, because I want these roots to form down there really deeply. Now that's about as deep as I want it. We're going to add some water to push the water down even deeper. Let it drain. This is very quick draining soil because these are deep beds. We're not going to add any fertilizer because we already fertilized these beds really heavily. And then we're going to bury the tomato. We're going to push down the soil to make sure that it doesn't have any air pockets. There's my first pineapple tomato planted ever. Now we're going to water it in. Give it a good soak. And I think I'm going to show you how to do the staking right now. As I told you before, we're only going to allow this to grow into one stalk. So what I'm going to do is just tie this very loosely to the support. And then we'll periodically check it and see if it needs to be tied up some more. So, every week or so, probably every week, maybe even sooner, I'll go through and pull off any of the side shoots and then tie up the top to the top of the support. So I'm going to get it under here. And now I'm not going to double wrap it around the tomato. I usually like to double wrap my stretchy tape around the pole. That way it doesn't slip around the pole, but it doesn't tie too tightly around the tomato plant and damage the tomato plant. And I really like this Green Garden stretchy tape. it works really well for a lot of things. And it's soft enough it doesn't harm any of the plants. So there's the first tomato planted and staked, and we're off to the races. Let's plant our first pepper plant. Now I put these peppers out here yesterday, and it looks like they've dried out. So I'm going to water the pepper really well before I plant it. This one's just a regular bell pepper, California Wonder Green Bell. Move that to the side. And then we're going to dig another deep hole. We're going to not plant this pepper any deeper than it was in the pot. Don't do the peppers the same way as we do the tomatoes. Now we're going to take the pepper out of the pot very carefully. Put the tag right here. And for being in this pot for so long, it's not very root bound, but it's got a really well developed root system. Hopefully you can see that. And we're just going to stick that in the hole, a little too deep. Okay, that's the depth that I want it. We're going to also add water to this hole first. Push the water down pretty far. Let it drain. And then plant this pepper, making sure to not leave any air pockets. I'm going to get everything else planted, spare you the boredom of watching me do it over and over again, and I'll be back when I'm done. I was able to get everything planted and mulched. Let's show you what it looks like, and I'll show you the varieties that I planted. So here we have the one in full sun, where we've got our squash coming up. But the varieties that are in this bed are mostly cherry tomatoes. So I did put in a Brad's Atomic Grape, and we'll see if that one survives. It really seems to be suffering. We'll see what it looks like tomorrow. It's the only one out of probably 6 seeds that I had that survived. This one's a Sun Gold. We have an Amana Orange, which is not a cherry. San Marzano, I guess they're not mostly all cherries. The San Marzano is a paste tomato. Another San Marzano. And another San Marzano over there, and this is another Sun Gold. So I'm really excited about that. I also put some stevia in the corners. I'm starting to run out of garden space, and I'm starting to need to shove things everywhere. Now this straw that I mulched with is straw that I use to protect my fig trees and my pomegranate trees, and it's also from bags of leaves that I use to protect the roots on my persimmons over the winter. And what I did, and I'll post a picture of it right now, is I dumped all of the bags of leaves and spread out the bales of straw all over my lawn, and then mowed it up using a bagger. And this is what came out of it. And I'm really happy with it as a mulch. It works really well. There wasn't a ton of it, so I was only able to do a few beds with this, and then I had a friend give me another full bale of straw, and I just used that bale without mowing it up first. In this bed we have a couple of pineapples. We have my favorite black seaman right there. Put some basil in between. There's another black seaman. This one's a Dr. Wychie. That's one from the seeds that I got from Garden Fun with Jane. I'm really excited to try these and see how I like them. And I lost the tag on this one. I'm not sure what it is. Oh, it's a Kentucky beefsteak. And we talked about the pepper varieties before. I decided I'm not going to trellis them yet. They seem to be standing up fine on their own. All of these are sweet pepper varieties. The ones on the end down there are the California Wonder bell peppers. Then we have Antohi peppers, which I'm really excited to try. They're supposed to be really colorful and very sweet. And then I have been able to try the Doe Hill. These are Doe Hill, and they're an orange bell. I already had one produce in the house and was able to harvest it. It turned orange. And it was so delicious. I usually don't like bell peppers, but that was a really good one. I'm trying to learn how to like them more. We did put a seedling that I grew from one of my own roselle plants in here, so it's looking really good. This one was one of the ones that from my seeds. In the back here is my Jerusalem artichoke. And then we're going to put some squash, probably a crookneck squash on one side and a zucchini squash on the other, so it can fall over the edge of this vajayga bed. Then over here, we have all my paprika peppers. All those peppers are paprika. We have another black seaman over here. In the back, way back in the back, we planted 2 more roselle plants, so we'll have 3 of them total. And then we have 2 jet star tomatoes that are kind of wilty a little bit, but I think they should do fine a little bit later. Now this straw, you can see it's a little bit bigger. This is straw that I did not mow up, and this is straw that was mowed. Up here we put another sun gold tomato. And then down here we put my jalapeno peppers. They're not looking so hot. I hope they survive. We'll see what happens with those. Then last of all, in this area, which are already producing peppers from inside, are my banana peppers. They're kind of hanging all over the place. I may have to put stakes on them. We'll see how they do. So I'm really happy to get this project done and finally have my peppers and my tomatoes planted. Next year I'm definitely not going to plant my peppers as early as I did. And I would love to hear if you have planted your tomatoes and your peppers already. It is June 2nd right now, which is really, really late for me to be planting, but as of 2 days ago we were having 30-degree temperatures at night. Now the temperatures are all going to be in the 50s at night, the days are going to be in the 70s, so it's going to be absolutely perfect. Hopefully it'll wait a little while before it shoots up into the 90s and the 100s, so these plants get a chance to establish themselves. So tell me what you are doing in your garden. I would love to hear, and I would love to hear if you are actually harvesting anything yet. I did a little bit of a harvest video in my last video, and I'll link that up at the top. And my next video is going to be planting more food in my green stock planter that I did. And I'll link a video up here of how I put that green stock planter together. So until the next video, I hope you enjoy yourself and go have a wonderful garden adventure.